Welcome to this First Advisors Investor Webinar with me, Giles Rafferty. Today's webinar features AML3D Limited, which has the ASX code AL3. AML3D uses its advanced technology solutions to create industrial scale metal components that are stronger and more resistant than the equivalent traditionally manufactured components. AML3D has created a production process that dramatically reduces waste and lead times, while also improving ESG outcomes. The combination of AML3D's proprietary Archemy wire additive manufacturing units and WAMSoft software make AML3D an industry leader in industrial scale 3D metal printing and a technology disruptor of the metal fabrication industry. Today's webinar is expected to run for about an hour or so and be split into two roughly equal sections. The first section will consist of a presentation by AML3D Managing Director Andy Sales that will profile the company, walk investors through AML3D's strategy and investment thesis. Andy's presentation will be followed by a Q&A session when Hamish McEwin, AML3D's CFO, will also be available to answer questions. Should you wish to ask a question, you can do so by typing a question in the Q&A box on your screen. We will endeavour to ask as many of your questions as we can during the course of the webinar. I would now like to introduce you to Andy Sales, Managing Director of AML3D.
Thank you, Giles, and welcome everyone to today's webinar and presentation. Today's presentation is very much part of AML3D as a company and myself as its Managing Director, making sure that the market is well informed and up to date on the company's value proposition. Currently, AML3D has a market capitalisation of a little over 12 million and a share price of 8.5 cents. Given we've already booked 2 million of FY22 revenues in hand, and we have a proven technology that is fundamentally disrupting and improving on traditional industrial scale metal component manufacturing, we strongly feel that AML3D is significantly undervalued. Only last week, RAS released a research report valuing AML shares at 43 cents, which represents around a $65 million market cap. To help address this valuation gap, the board and management of AML3D are undertaking an active campaign to raise awareness of the company and its investment proposition with new investors, brokers and analysts, with a view to attracting new investors into the company and materially improving its share price over time. My expectation is that once I've had a chance to run through today's presentation with you, you'll see the significant progress we're currently making on executing our strategy, and also have a good sense of the AML3D broader business, investment thesis and opportunities. To the disclaimer slide, it's important to include a disclaimer slide, but I won't dwell on this for now. Should you wish to read it in detail, it is included in the presentation deck, which you can download from the AML3D website. The investment thesis I've mentioned, AML3D has a proven technology that disrupts traditional industrial bulk metal component manufacturing. Our proprietary and patented wire additive manufacturing technology has allowed us to develop 3D printing solutions that create industrial scale metal components in less time with less waste, but importantly, that matches and often exceeds the strength and resilience of traditionally manufactured components. AML3D's faster, stronger and greener technology is already being used for prototyping industrial components in the oil and gas sector, the marine sector, defence and aerospace, and the space sector just recently. We have relatively few direct competitors, and by building on the existing contracts and relationships, we have global tier 1 customers, notably in the oil and gas sector. We have multiple pathways to significantly increase our global revenues over the midterm. Critically, unlike other players in the sector, our processes are quality certified, which means that our customers can buy our products, put them directly into industrial use. And for us, this means more revenue and earlier. As I've mentioned, for FY22, we already have over 2 million of revenue from contracts in hand, which represents a 3.5 multiple compared to this time last year. So far in 22 is part of the phase 1 AML3D's multi-phase strategic growth plan that involves continuing to build on our current successes, winning business in oil and gas sectors, and expanding over the midterm into marine defence, aerospace and the space markets, and then leveraging our R&D works to create new commercial opportunities, enhanced technology-enabled solutions and branded products in the longer term. Across all 3 phases of our growth strategy, we will be targeting multiple revenue streams, including contract manufacturing services, design services for additive manufacturing, sales of Alchemy industrial 3D metal printers, sales of wire alloys and high-value wire feedstock, maintenance and operational support fees, and software licensing fees. This combination of disruptive technology that can access multiple revenue streams across multiple markets within a structured growth strategy is at the heart of AML3D's investment thesis. It is why we're confident at AML3D we will deliver significant value through time and see a significant re-rating of the company's share price. With the agenda, I thought it would be helpful to give you an overview of the areas I'm planning to cover during this presentation. But before we get into that, I thought it would also be useful to give you a sense of the scale of the components our proprietary technology solutions can deliver. And it's worth bearing in mind that AML3D's technology has been designed to allow us to meet each customer's specific needs from the design, prototyping and contract manufacturing at scale that we are delivering to supporting enterprise level manufacturing contracts that incorporate the entire AML3D technology suite. I mentioned our technology improves the strength and structural integrity of our industrial components, while additive manufacturing minimises and can remove the need for welded and bolted joints, which means our printed components help minimise the requirement for maintenance or replacement, limit downtime and breakdowns, creating greater efficiency and adding immense value to our customers' processes. The metal in products produced by our proprietary WAM technology has also been proved to be marginally stronger than cast, billeted and forged metal blocks traditionally used for industrial metal products and components. Another way our technology is disrupting traditional manufacturing is it allows for just-in-time industrial component manufacturing, and that means that our customers can avoid expensive and time-consuming tooling and also avoid lengthy delivery times. Our 3D metal printing solutions significantly reduce these cycle times and deliver better quality components compared to the traditional bulk metal manufacturing. Our multi-phase growth strategy means we can actively address multiple sophisticated and geographically diverse markets for complex industrial components. AML's proprietary technology solutions are proven, currently delivering for customers and certified by industry bodies such as Lloyd's Register and D&V. We are the market leader in large-scale 3D printing sector, which is a market set to grow in excess of 20% per year for the next 3 years. We're also positioned within the advanced metal wire additive manufacturing sector, which is also forecast to grow at over 20% per year over the next 3 years, and sits within the global additive manufacturing market, which is also expected to grow overall by 30% per year up to 2028. AML3D will focus on opportunities targeting the oil and gas, marine defence, aerospace and space sectors in the US and the Asia Pacific region, including Singapore and Australia, where our technology is shown to provide superior outcomes to existing alternatives. I will go through a few specific near-term opportunities later in this presentation. Multiple revenue streams. We own and are continuing to develop our market-leading technology. This creates the opportunity to access multiple revenue streams. For some customers who simply need component manufacturing at scale, we provide contract manufacturing on a fee-for-service basis. For customers that need an ongoing local manufacturing capability, we can sell and install an Alchemy printer where it is needed. Further revenue streams are generated by the annual licensing of our WAMsoft software, including service fees that cover training and software updates. A number of our customers are also looking for us to provide enterprise level solutions where we supply the full support Alchemy units to global tier 1 customers, including design services, training, software and servicing, and potentially embedding AML3D personnel within a customer's operations where needed. We're excited to progress a number of these enterprise opportunities in the near term, as they will suit our target customers' businesses and would provide us with large, recurring and growing revenue streams. We're also developing additional longer-term revenue streams through our R&D work, which is expected to create opportunities for sales of branded wire alloys and high-value wire feedstock. The cycle for securing contracts with tier 1 customers can take anywhere between 3 months to 18 months from initiation to a signed contract, and that can depend on several variables, including the level of complexity of the components and the testing standards and the testing regime that need to be met for the customer's particular application. However, the 5 key milestones shown here on this slide are common to all contract negotiations and allow us to track progress and have a degree of visibility on the timing of contracts and the levels of support AML3D will need to provide customers and the resourcing we need to put that into place. We're hopeful of making a number of announcements later this year regarding opportunities that we've been working on through this process. AML3D's multi-phase growth strategy allows us to prioritise immediate revenue opportunities in our primary markets of the energy and oil and gas sectors, while also exploring opportunities within the marine, defence, aerospace and space markets, and investing in the R&D programs that will underpin longer-term revenue growth. AML's sweet spot is using our proven technology to provide flexible, timely and cost-effective design and delivery of complex, medium to large-scale metal components. We are equally at home delivering for original equipment manufacturers or end users looking for replacement components that exceed the capabilities of traditional manufacturing processes. We believe it's important to develop our existing relationships and understanding of the energy and oil and gas sectors so we can apply what we learn there and leverage off a track record of delivering to a high standard for global customers. I'm quite proud of AML3D's success in developing our market-leading technology, 3D metal printing technology, and would like to give you an overview of our technology advantage over the next 2 slides. The technology has many advantages over traditional industrial cast, forge and billet materials manufacturing process for medium to large scale industrial components. Our 3D metal printing solutions can be up to 30% stronger, cut lead times by up to 75%, be up to 70% more efficient, and be 50% more resistant to metal fatigue over time. But what really sets AML3D apart, not only from traditional manufacturing, but also our additive manufacturing technology peer group, is that our manufacturing process is certified through Lloyd's Register, comes with ISO 9001 quality management systems, American Welding Society compliance and BizSafe compliance. We're also soon to be accredited to DNV, another prestigious classification society. These industry certifications and accreditations are critical to being able to market and sell to our targeted industrial customers, and many of our technology peers are yet to achieve these milestones. Our technology is also differentiated by the level to which it can support our customers to meet their internal ESG targets. In addition to traditional financial metrics, ESG consideration is increasingly influencing the purchasing decisions of our global tier 1 customers. Compared to traditional metal manufacturing process, AML3D's technology can offer significantly improved environmental and sustainability outcomes. Our largest Archemy unit occupies around 90% less space than Australia's largest traditional metal casting and forging operations. Our successful prototyping of a Panama chock for Keppel Industries recently in Singapore created more than 80% less waste. Additive manufacturing within the aerospace industry was found to result in up to 87% reduction in emissions also. I've made frequent references to our multi-phase growth strategy, so would like to talk through how that works over the next couple of slides. In essence, we're targeting shareholder value creation across a number of horizons. Our immediate drivers of revenue growth are using our established relationships and proven technology to support contract manufacturing negotiations with global tier 1 customers in the oil and gas sector. We have a number of these well-progressed opportunities, which we are hopeful of announcing in the near term. Over the medium term, we are looking for revenue growth through securing global tier 1 customers in our secondary markets of marine, defence, aerospace and space sectors. And we're delighted with the quality of active engagement we're having with current global leading aerospace companies right now. Also within our medium-term growth plan is developing enterprise level solutions with tier 1 customers across all sectors we're targeting. An enterprise level solution would involve supplying a customer with a full AML3D suite of technology, including the supply, support and servicing of 3D metal printers alongside full service training, design services, software licensing, and potentially embedding our people within our customers' operations. For longer term opportunities, we continue to enhance our software and technology through in-house development and partnership with leading research institutions such as Deakin University, RMIT, Adelaide and Flinders Universities. We are developing advanced new materials and are looking to monetize the IP that we've created through the creation and sale of branded wire feedstock and high value wire feedstocks, alongside the provision of advanced materials for 3D printing industrial components. I've also mentioned we have over $2 million of FY22 revenues from contracts currently in hand. This slide shows the range of customers that we're supplying today and who form our immediate value drivers. You can see the mix of revenues from contract manufacturing to prototyping to Alchemy unit sales, and also that we mean what we mean by global tier 1 customers such as Schlumberger. It's important to note here the sales we are currently generating from contract manufacturing include multiple prototype items, which are the precursor for larger contracts for parts manufacture on an ongoing basis. Our medium-term value drivers include ongoing work from our immediate value driver customers such as ThyssenKrupp, alongside specialist one-off projects, trials and prototype projects across our additional priority markets of defence, aerospace, space and marine. Our R&D work, both in-house and with our partners, underpins the longer-term value drivers of the business. They include ongoing work with BAE Systems and Flinders University to develop the next generation of WAM technology, and R&D with Deakin University and the IFM to include new wire feedstock opportunities with the potential to create new AML3D products and processes. We're also breaking new ground with our work to integrate boron nitride nanotubes, BNNT, one of the world's strongest materials, into aluminium, with the potential to create new lightweight, high-strength alloy with new applications, particularly in the space and aerospace exploration. We're continuing to work to develop our next generation hybrid 3D metal printing unit, with also the potential to increase output by up to 5 times and delivering a WAM process that includes final machining to deliver higher quality one-stop shop components. We're also supporting third-party R&D initiatives at the RMIT and Queensland universities through the sale of Alchemy units and associated ongoing support, design and training services. I have one final slide I'd like to talk to, which is the summary. AML3D is focused on delivering shareholder value. We have created a faster, stronger and greener technology-enabled production process for medium to large industrial metal components that disrupts traditional manufacturing. We've developed multi-phase growth plan that we believe will deliver increasing value over the immediate, medium and longer term horizons. Our technology is world leading, in demand, and we have relatively few direct competitors. Importantly, our technology is industry certified and accredited, something many of our additive manufacturing peers are yet to achieve. And we have a clear pathway to increase revenues and profitability. As I've mentioned, we already have $2 million worth of contracts in hand for FY22, which is close to a 3.5-fold increase on FY21, and we believe the momentum in the business is building. I hope this presentation has given you a good understanding of the AML3D investment case and business model, and I thank you for giving me your time today. We're confident our technology and growth strategy will deliver significant value through time, and we're committed to making sure we keep our investors updated on the progress we're making. There are 2 additional slides in the appendix that reveal the strength and experience of our board and senior leaders, and also gives you a sense of how AML3D's culture is aligned with delivering sustainable returns. But I think at this stage, it's probably a good time for me to open up the webinar for your questions.
Well, thank you for taking us through the presentation, Andy. As you say, it's probably time to get into the Q&A. Hamish is with us, Hamish McEwin, who's AML3D's CFO, also available to answer questions should you have any. If you do, well, we do have several questions already submitted, and if you wish to ask a question, please just type it into the Q&A box. But if I may, I'll work through as many as we can in the time that we have. The first question I have here is from an attendee called John R. That's John with the letter R. That's the only details I have from him. And it was on one of your slides that we didn't particularly speak to it, and it was, what is the status of the patent applications in the EU and the USA?
Yes, thank you, John. Good question, actually. I'm quite excited at the moment because the status of these patents are that we have received our first challenges earlier in the year. That it was January. In both the EU and the USA. What that represents is the final stage of patent being granted. In the US and the EU, obviously, there's a mountain of applications for all sorts of patents. So we are in the last stages, and we have been told by our patent attorney that we should expect granting of those patents in those regions by the end of the year, and we haven't received any correspondence in the last sort of couple of months, so it's all good news at the moment. We've responded to the challenges posed, and we're quite confident, and obviously the patent has already been granted in other areas such as Australia, New Zealand, Singapore and South Korea at the moment, with a couple of other areas around the globe to come through as well, and we expect those to be by end of year also. So by end of year, we should expect a global patent. So quite excited by that prospect at the moment.
Another question that we have here, Andy, comes from an anonymous attendee, so we don't have the name of the particular investor, but they say there's a clear, and it is clear from the deck that in the presentation you just given, that AML3D's technology is addressing industrial applications. It's of industrial scale. Their question is, can you ever see a domestic version of your technology?
Well, I guess we do have domestic opportunities, even local here in Adelaide, but generally what we're seeing is, a global uptake. There is quite a national interest with the technology. Of course, Australia being, traditionally a manufacturing country, there's plenty of opportunity out there, and it's mainly part of our strategy over the coming months, at least, to ramp up that opportunity to offer to new customers on a broader scale what our process can offer them. Of course, we are also seeing, with global supply chains strained at the moment, we have actually started receiving quite a number of opportunities from customers that normally traditionally order bulk material parts from China, Asia, Eastern Europe, where those supply chains now are quite strained to the point of there's timeframes of more than 12 months for some of these parts. So we're starting to see growth and inquiry of alternative processes, which is good news for us.
Another question I have here, again from an anonymous attendee, is quite specific, but it's saying, is there any geometry that AML3D cannot make?
Interesting question. Probably a hard one to answer. I guess the way I would probably answer that is that we're large scale 3D printing, or we have a large scale capability in our process. So while we can on a medium to large scale come up with geometries that are complex. It's complex on a large scale. What we don't do is, the smaller scale components. So there's not many geometrical configurations on a large scale that we can't do, because our system actually has an 8-axis capability, which means that we can rotate parts on a rotator. We've got a 6-axis robot which can also angle the delivery head to whatever angle you need. So we have got quite a lot of flexibility on geometrical shapes and features.
Another question live today, another anonymous attendee. This one's quite, again, somewhat specific. They're asking, why is AML3D's technology different from powder-based additive manufacturing? And they're specifically looking at companies such as SpaceX, because you've got ambitions in that sector. And they're saying, look, competitors are having success at SpaceX from the powder-based side of the industry. So what is it about AML3D that might make someone like SpaceX say, you're the technology we should be looking at?
Yeah, interesting question. And I'm glad somebody's posed that, because there is quite a significant difference between the various feedstocks. So, you generally have powder and you have wire. We use wire. It's a well-established supply chain. It's been around for 100 years. So it's well established, well understood, and well standardized and certified. It's based on welding wire, which has plenty of, there is plenty of opportunities, plenty of material grades and material types or metal types. With powder, is an interesting feedstock because it's very restrictive in the sense that there's not the level of material grades out there for the end user's choice. So there might, I think the last count was there was only 12 to 14 metal types available. In the wire space, which we deal with, there's multitude. There's 100+ wire grades available, which gives us quite a lot of flexibility. The powder processes also are generally governed by the sphere size of the powder as to what their layering heights may be. So therefore their build process or their build rate is a lot slower. So if you can imagine a sphere the size of 20 micron, let's say, to build, or 20 to 40 microns. So to build a 1 millimeter layer takes anywhere between 30 to 50 layer deposits. So it's very slow. With wire, we use 1.2 millimeter wire diameter and 1.6 millimeter wire diameter. So our bead size deposited in comparison to powder are order of magnitude more. We deposit a bead size height of about 2.5 to 3 millimeters. So 50 layers for us, we're already at 0.5 meter high. So, and our deposition rates are anywhere from 5 to 10 kilograms per hour, as opposed to powder processes, which are significantly less. They're about a 15th less. So, or 15 times less, sorry. So you're normally talking around 0.5 kilogram an hour. You're talking in grams an hour. So, but what both feedstocks offer are completely different markets. A powder process would be looking at smaller and refined, specialized one-off type components, whereas we're focused with wire on the medium to large scale, which powder would never be able to do on a larger scale. So hopefully that answers that question.
Well, and there's a lot of questions coming through. So in this instance, I'm going to bundle two together, which seem very similar in the way they were submitted. One was submitted from Stephen Rogers and the other from Pascal IU. both of them suggesting that maybe, well, Stephen suggests there's been great progress, but maybe the market hasn't been as adequately informed as it could have been over the past 12 months. Pascal reflects the same thought. And they're both saying, is there an intention to improve communication with investors, which may well support a better valuation for the company? And what's the plans around that?
Oh, no, look, it's a really good question, and we are aware that, we do get questioned on communication now and again, but I guess first of all, and maybe Hamish can add to this after, but first of all, what we're really focused on is what in terms of disclosing information via the ASX portal, we're really focused on really tangible opportunities. We're not interested in signing an MOU or a letter of intent and exciting investors or potential investors through that. So we are very focused on revenue generating style contracts and disclosures to market. In saying that, we do have quite an active LinkedIn and Facebook profile, probably more LinkedIn. So we are updating weekly some of our activities, whether it be in the workshop or whether we're visiting customers or having visitors to the facility. Also trade shows as well. We've actually got one coming up in May up in Sydney. So we will endeavour to improve our communication, but going back to market disclosures, we're fully focused on just tangible growth opportunity style announcements and revenue generating announcements.
I'd like to add, Andy, but I think you pretty much covered it.
Okay. The next question that's come through is another anonymous question, and it may well get a response from both of you if that's appropriate. But the question comes down to why you think the enterprise value, the value attributed to the company, is low, and what might be underpinning that. Now, it's a tricky question, I'm sure, to answer, but do you have a sense of why that is?
I guess a lot of customers we talk to don't just want a printed component. A lot of them actually want a complete solution. So we've come up with the enterprise solution that offers them a suite of services from us, and that predominantly includes, which might be different from what we've done in the past. It includes design for additive manufacturing. It's helping the customer realise where the opportunities are in not only one component, but maybe in their sweep of components that they normally order traditionally. So, Hamish, you might have something to add there as well.
Yeah, no, in reference to the market and where I suppose where that question was going, which was where our share price is at. Currently, the market for additive manufacturing stocks is not attractive, and we've unfortunately been pulled down with it. I think we've got a really solid, dare I say it, better platform, which is far more mature to grow a business off. But as I said, with the rest of the market for AM stocks, we've unfortunately been targeted with it.
And sticking maybe with some of the financial metrics that were in the presentation, you mentioned you've 2 million of revenues from contracts in hand for financial year 2022. An anonymous attendee is just trying to get a sense or a flavour of what makes up that 2 million. I mean, clearly commercial in confidence, you can't necessarily name names, but can you give any sense of what is behind that 2 million figure?
Certainly, about 75% of it is from our Archemy unit sales. The remainder is print jobs, and as we're seeing now with the units we've already got out in the marketplace, the service fees coming through for supporting customers such as well, Roland's being the first adopter here in Australia of the unit.
Stick again. I think we're in a groove here with some of the questions around contracts, revenues, etc. Another anonymous question has landed is, can you give any sort of forward-looking sense of contract announcements or further revenue during FY 2022? People, I think it's another anonymous attendee, and I think the flavour of this question is that they're thinking they're looking for positive news flow, I suppose, but that question really boils down to, is there any sort of timeline for contract announcements going forward?
Oh, look, I think I covered that in the presentation. Look, there is some near-term things happening, and you know, we're fully aware of the recent few months. But I guess, as I've described in one of the slides about you know, customer conversion, there's been a lot of discussions, a lot of planning, a lot of engineering going on with certain customers, in particular some tier ones. So yes, as I've said, there is some quite a bit happening, and there is some disclosures coming. So I guess we want to make sure that you know, investors feel that yes, we are busy here, and I guess that comes back to the communication. So yes, here and now we are very busy. There will be things coming up which we'll announce, but they'll be good and tangible disclosures as well. So it should keep everyone happy. I'm certainly happy at the moment.
And as you already spoke to, Andy, the revenue growth this year versus last, and the year before that, we are a startup, and we are finally getting traction. And you know, we would like to think that we're going to sustain that current level of growth, if not exceed it, over the next few years. So, but as you indicated, we're not keen to put pie in the sky estimates out there at this stage.
Yeah, well, it's always a tricky one because, you know, until things are disclosed, they're not disclosed. But thank you for that. There's a bunch of questions here, all relating to Archime units. So I thought I might bundle them in some respect, and maybe I'll prompt follow-ons to sort of address them. One is first one I've got here is from an anonymous attendee. It speaks to the idea there was a sale to an ADL fabricator announced last year, and they're trying to understand what are they using the unit to produce, and what sort of products have they been using it to create. I don't know if you can speak to that. Clearly, if you sold it to a third party, you may not have direct visibility on what they're using it for, but any sense of what's happening with that would be helpful.
Yeah, I guess we probably can't disclose another company's contracts, but or what we can say is that that unit, and I think it may be referring to the Roland's group. They're involved in defence. They're also involved in local agricultural and local general engineering service and supply. A great company in South Australia here with quite a wide range of offerings, but they've recently obviously taken on one of our units and have been actively promoting 3D printing of it. But what I can say is that they are using it across quite a wide flexible range. So they are actually testing that unit to the limit. So and there's a lot more coming for them, but obviously we can't say who and what contracts there are. But
we have engaged with them recently to enhance the capabilities of their unit. So we're working with them over the next 6 months to increase the capability of it to produce more.
Well, another Archime linked question comes from an attendee who's under the initials TK. And they're talking, they say, you mentioned the near future Archime unit sales from May/June. And they're just trying to understand where they're being sold into. Is it into the Australian market, international market? Is it more than one customer? Is it a single customer? Just getting a flavour of what you're looking for Archime sales.
Yeah, more than one customer, and it's within Australia and globally. So there's a mixture of both, local and overseas. There's quite a lot of interest at the moment.
And also looking at Archime, Stuart Spouse has asked a question: what are your expectations for the RCME units that have been provided to the universities so far? And you spoke in the presentation about RMIT and University of Queensland.
Yeah.
But what are the expectations you have for what will come from those machines?
Well, I guess from experience over the years, what you do normally see in general is that once universities are taking up a certain technology, not only for just simpler and literature and research work, but most universities also partner with industry. So the exciting thing about that is that these learning organisations and research organisations, such as say CSIRO, ANSTO, and the universities, once there's an uptake there, it means that there's a growing level of interest in industry, and we're certainly seeing that. So we're quite happy that we've got quite a number of quite a few relationships with a number of universities. I know we've mentioned 4 there, but there are actually 2 or 3 others as well, in terms of interest in research and in this area for industrial use. And they have industrial partners, so we'll only see growth for the process itself, the RCME process itself, or the WAM process itself, through those relationships and through those sales into universities and the like.
And sort of rounding out the RCME suite of questions, I suppose, that have been submitted. This one's anonymous, but the question is, what kind of feedback are you getting from those people who have bought RCME units or using RCME units, and what are they saying to you about the technology?
I guess they're quite happy, most of them. One of the reasons that most get involved with the process is that they can see the value that it offers. And currently at the moment, as I may have mentioned, there's quite a supply strain globally at the moment, and we're actually seeing quite a number of inquiries starting to come in about the process now. But that's only reinforced by current customers and users that that's the reason why they're interested in the process itself and what the RCME can deliver. So and given that it's quite a flexible unit, from medium to large scale, it's across all metal types. Some of those customers are still asking questions: can we do this or can we do that? The answer predominantly is yes to most of their inquiries. So
a lot of these questions have been forward-looking. Another one from Stuart Spouse, who did post a question earlier, is actually looking back a little bit. It's asking about the status of the mandrel component that was submitted to Boeing some time ago.
Yes, okay, yep, okay, yeah, good question. We have recently been visited by Boeing, actually, their main global additive manufacturing director. So there's a relationship there with that component that we delivered late last year. Boeing being a very large company, I can say, it does take time to go through the process. So in terms of, their internal testing, their internal use of that mandrel. So we have been getting updates, albeit very few. It's about 1 a month that, yes, things are in progress, but they've got a workload themselves. So once we get some good tangible feedback on that, we will actually update investors, probably through our quarterly reporting. And if it's something tangible on its own, then we'll disclose that too on its own potentially. But we will update when Boeing's done with what they're planning for that actual component.
I have a couple of questions that have come from attendee John R, initial R, so John R, and they're both about, I guess, the application of the technology. One is the competitors in this space do competitors use welding wire? And what is the closest competing technology? And I guess what he's getting to is how unique is AML3D by comparison, I guess, to traditional welding?
Oh, I guess it is a welding process, and what I can also say is that all 3D printing processes, whether it be powder or using wire, are in its own form a welding process, because they all use a heat source to melt feedstock, whether it be wire or powder. So those various processes are, electric arc, which is what we use. Yes, it is a welding process, or it's a welding-based process. There's electron beam and there's laser beam. So one of the reasons we use electric arc processing is that the hardware is a lot less complex than using an electron beam and a laser beam to as a heat source to melt your feedstock. And in our view, you get a lot broader range of material use through the arc welding, electric arc welding technique that we use. So hopefully that broadly answers the question. But yes, it is a welding technology, and I guess something that I do always say as well is that welding technology, whichever heat source you're using, is quite a well understood science, especially in the wire space. Powder space is still emerging, but it's well understood in the wire feedstock space.
When it comes to the competitors, Andy, when we're talking about those few or couple overseas that can produce on a scale like we can, we've got the advantage of you can effectively pick up a unit and stick it in anywhere. You can stick it in the corner of a factory. You don't actually need a specific environment, which means that our application is far more, well, it can be applied anywhere as opposed to competitors which are limited in where they can put them.
Yeah.
And there are other questions along the same theme. John letter R's initial, has another question again about how you apply the technology. This one is around, it's quite specific, small modular nuclear reactors. He thinks they're like big pressure cooker type structures. And is this somewhere that the technology that AML3D has could be applied to a space like that? Is there an opportunity?
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting space because typically, nuclear reactors use very high value, very expensive materials, refractory materials such as titanium, tantalum, and that sort of thing. There is a lot of research still going on with some of the universities overseas in actually within the WAM space, actually within very similar processes overseas. I guess in terms of commercial use, it comes down to the opportunity. There's not much work in this region of the globe for us. Is it something that we would start looking at? Yes, potentially, if we saw the opportunity and the opportunity came to us. I guess, to answer the question, is it possible to apply our process to those materials? Well, as long as it's bulk material, cast forged or normally billeted machined material that's machined down, then yes, we could look at that. We probably haven't explored that space too much, but I'll take note of that and actually look at that now.
Yeah, and rounding out the questions around application of the technology, Paul Nichols has asked, can you speak more about nanotechnology and where that fits in the mix?
Nanotechnology, I guess that's something that we are doing with Flinders University and with the boron nanonitride, the BNNT high strength aluminium opportunity with Deakin and IFM. So boron nitride nanotubes are like a nanoscale type fibre or metallic fibre that's used to strengthen aluminium matrices. So we are looking at that side of things. I guess if you look at the other side of nanotechnology, it does explore, down to the molecular and atom level. We probably wouldn't do that with our current capabilities, but we are involved in it with the BNNT opportunity that we've got.
I think this next question is probably going to be one for both of you at some level. It's bundling together a few questions and some questions actually that were submitted during the registration process. And what it boils down to is the funding and capital requirements of the business. Richard Liu has submitted a question live, and as I say, there were some in pre-registration as well around this. And the question boils down to what's your view of the funding and capital requirements for the business?
Well, our board is always assessing what our capital requirements are to not only sustain the existing business, but for R&D and for expansion opportunities such as US, Europe. At this stage, we haven't actually, as a board, they have not come to a conclusion as to whether we need to do a raise down the track or whether we can be self-sustaining as we are.
I guess the drive for us is to become self-sustaining. So, but that doesn't rule out any capital raisings in the future. But we would typically look at, the main reason for that would be growth globally.
Always a tricky one. I've got another interesting question that we haven't really touched on, and again, it's one of those where it can be hard to sort of foreshadow these things. But the question from an anonymous attendee, and they're wondering, would you consider acquisitions or joint ventures with other 3D printing companies? Does that fit into your thinking about how AML3D evolves?
I guess part of our strategy has always been to grow the company. We have a fantastic opportunity, and I've always believed we've had a fantastic opportunity to grow globally since opening up, 5 to 6 years ago with our AC grant, our federal AC grant. Some of our first inquiries were global. To answer the question directly, the answer is yes, and we have been fully aware of opportunities over the last sort of 2 to 3 years, and this sort of fits into our overall strategy for growing the company. I can't say that we're active right now, but we are definitely we've definitely been planning for growth in all areas, and whether it be acquisitions, whether it be growth into establishing facilities in other regions. We've analysed it all, and we will be very active over the next 2 to 3 to 4 years.
Because our process is medium to large scale, so it's not applicable across all areas. Bolting on other additive manufacturing processes to expand our offering, yes, it's an obvious.
Yeah, look, there's only so much you can say, and I appreciate that because, again, commercially sensitive, and until it's disclosed, it's not disclosed. Another question from an anonymous attendee is much more basic, but it's quite a stark question. It goes, do you see AML3D as a software company or a manufacturing company? I imagine the answer is somewhere in the middle, but I'll leave it up to you.
Or both. Well, we're predominantly a software, actually. We spend a lot of time, and we still do spend a lot of time enhancing our software and our which basically drives the hardware. So the printing aspect of it is just the final outcome. But I can safely say here, I guess, that a predominant amount of time over the last few years has been developing the software capability. To go and print a part, not to put it simply, but to go and print a part is just the final part of it. So there's a significant amount of time that we've spent developing the software that we've got at the moment.
And we're very close to sort of our full time. And as I said, there was questions in advance, and there's actually still live questions coming through. And one that I know we got in the pre-registration phase was speaking to sort of some of these larger macro themes, and it's quite contemporaneous. You know, COVID's had an impact, the war in Russia's had an impact, supply chains are disrupted, inflation's on the rise. There's a lot of big themes. Are those themes starting to have an impact on AML3D? Are you seeing, you know, cost pressures? How is that affecting your business?
Yeah, look, I guess any cost increases we pass on, obviously, because that's just what everybody does. I guess it's very unfortunate to go from COVID over the last couple of years to, you know, now we're seeing some effects of this unfortunate war in the Ukraine. But very interestingly, we've had opportunity come to us because, you know, whether it be COVID and the unfortunate circumstances of the war, there's been significant supply chain disruption, and end users, customers are looking for alternative. We actually had an opportunity, our first opportunity going back about 18 months ago or 20 months ago now, soon after COVID occurred, where you know, supply chains were strained then, and we were getting opportunities then. One thing I can say is that, you know, Russia and that area of the globe is a big supplier of aluminium, and we've had no shortage of alternative inquiries about producing large structures in aluminium, which is, you know, aluminium's and high strength aluminium's one of our sweet spots. It has been for a while. So yeah, very interesting times. And obviously, if anybody's thinking, well, you know, okay, do we have constraints on wire feedstock supply? Well, no, we don't, because wire feedstock is, you know, produced, you know, fairly close. We've got good relationships with that supply chain, and we have, you know, we keep plenty of stock, and the availability of that compared to medium to large bulk metal items is significantly different. It's much easier to get wire feedstock than bulk aluminium material at the moment. So we're seeing a positive outcome or positive opportunities there.
From a cost perspective, though, when our end product uses up to 70% less than a traditional method, if you have rising commodity prices, it certainly benefits our business, because we're not losing 70% of the cost of the commodity through it.
Well, as I said, there are actually additional questions, but I think we've pretty much used up the full time. Actually, we've overrun a little bit on the time we allocated for the webinar. So thank you for your time and patience, and for taking so many questions. I'll certainly, we'll pass any questions that weren't asked through to you, so you can have a look at those. But given that we are over time, I think we must draw a close to the webinar there. And all it really remains for me to do is thank you, Andy. Thank you, Hamish, for running through the presentation, and to both of you for taking the time to participate in such a comprehensive Q&A. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you, Giles.
Yeah, thanks very much.